like Connor McDavid seems humorless to me, so I don't know how he would take to a guy like Bruce Cassidy. Like,
He certainly respects John Cooper, right?
and John Cooper's funny. I don't think John Cooper is sarcastic. And I don't know if McDavid gets humor. Like, like maybe if it's hockey humor, like he's not even smiling in those CIBC commercials. So, and they're giving him money to be an architect, and he's not
Okay.
smiling. Connor Bedard is at least smiling
You
because I think
really,
he's in on the
really
joke.
hate those restaurant CIBC commercials.
Oh,
I
well,
thought they were fairly benign.
because it's a lie. Because I know that CIBC does not fund businesses unless you've got some big track record. This idea, oh, if Connor McDavid and Connor Bedard wanted to be architects, we gladly help them. Like if you're Joe Architect and John Architect and you want to be architects,
Right.
CIBC is not opening their doors for
Right. Well, just keep on beating the drum. That word needs to get out.
you.
Bum 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 bum
I'm
bum
gonna
bum bum
fight 'em
bum bum
off. A
bum
7 nation army couldn't hold me back. They're gonna rip it off, taking their time right behind my back. And I'm talking to myself at night because I can't forget. Back and forth through my mind, behind a cigarette.
Hello, Jason. How are you?
Okay, Greg, yourself.
Good. It's been a little while.
It has been a while.
We've
But,
taken a small hiatus.
yeah,
You've gone on a transnational tour and enjoyed yourself, and you've come back to now the Strait of Hormuz, the 14-day improper invasion, which unfortunately has not yet ended, despite all of the bluster and outright lies about it. And that's causing absolute havoc in many parts of the world. But more importantly, in the NHL, professional hockey, there has also been a lot of havoc, and it's all centered around the premier team in the league, the team that everybody gravitates towards that cannot win and probably will never win, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think you know what I'm
well,
talking about.
I think when you use the word premier, you lost me. I was thinking, are you talking about the Vegas Golden Knights? Are you talking about
Oh,
the President Trophy winner,
oh,
Colorado Avalanche?
Las
So,
Vegas
and
lost
yeah, and
last night.
I don't know if people in Ontario want to talk about premiers, but
La, yeah, well said. $30 million private jet. So Las Vegas lost last night to Anaheim 3-1, and my
yeah,
hope is that they get swept for nothing. I cannot stand
well,
Vegas.
they can't get swept for nothing because they won game one. But
Did they win game one? I thought it's
yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay, it's 1-0.
But Anaheim probably should have won that game too. Anaheim's looking good. I know we're going to talk a little bit about some Stanley Cup playoffs later, but they are
We
looking good, and they might be making that Edmonton series not look like a massive upset.
well, we will get to all of that, but first the important stuff. It was quite the 24 hours, 36 hours. Anyways, it was a short period of time. And Toronto and most of the hockey world was in absolute despair when the non-hockey jibber jabber corporate speak say nothing politician Pelly unveiled his biggest decision of his tenure. He is unfortunately for us, the figurehead that the big MLSE corporate behemoths, nobody's in charge, everybody wants to shed responsibility corporation has put in charge because he talks gobbledygook and he looks at the Premier League of soccer and he talks about how he can transfer all of that money and riches to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so he charges $1,000 for selfies at center ice and all that sort of jazz. He doesn't know hockey worth crap. He honestly doesn't. To listen to him is to listen to an idiot who is 60 something years old, very good corporate speak, completely out of his range. I mean, you should listen to me talk about NASCAR racing before you listen to Pelly talk about hockey. He just doesn't know his crap. And so, of course, he says, I'm going to engage an executive search firm because, of course, that would be better than, I don't know, talking to somebody who knows hockey to find myself a GM. And he lands upon this low character fellow who actually got kicked out of the NHL, and nobody ever gets kicked out. What's the guy's name? Chikra?
John Chayka.
John Chayka. And he, surprise, surprise, is also a corporate goobly gawk, talk for a couple of minutes, say nothing. I have now seen probably a dozen clips of him pretending that he's going to answer questions, Nothing. I mean, he would make every politician, every lawyer proud. The guy thinks that he's all that. To me, he looks like a 36-year-old who's playing a con game. And I will say this, Steve Simmons may not be generally loved, but I thought that he was bang on. His question should have been answered by Pelly, but the idiot that Pelly is, he fluffed it. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, there's a lot to unravel there. I would start off by saying, as a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, you should probably learn how to pronounce John Chayka, because you'll be having to say it for at least a couple of years. And I don't think I've heard a nicer compliment to Steve Simmons than he may not be generally loved. That's about the nicest description I've heard of Steve Simmons fandom.
Right.
But I mean, I think, the news, I think, sort of leaked out on a Friday because the hiring was on the Monday, right, the day before the draft, which was shocking. We'll get to the draft in a second. But yeah, it's a puzzling hire for them. Like, I don't know why a team that is has been kind of taken to the woodshed a few times in their trades the last 4 or 5 years, maybe going back even further, particularly with the Bruins. But that they would hire a guy who's sort of widely sounds like he's reviled amongst the other GMs in the league, if Steve Simmons' reporting is to be even partially believed. But I mean, he wasn't, I don't think, highly thought of when he did his sort of tenure in Arizona.
No way.
He got, as you pointed out, like when he got fired, I mean, he kind of took the fall for Arizona, for everything that Arizona did wrong. He took the fall for the owners of the team there.
But he tried to stab his employer in the back.
Well, I don't think he tried to stab his employer in the back. He had an opportunity to interview with New Jersey. He did that. And the owner then sort of said, hey, if you want out, fine, you can be out, but you're not going to New Jersey. And they kind of threw him under the bus a little bit. I mean, there was a couple things that I mean, their testing of prospects, that cost the Arizona Coyotes a draft pick, and sort of not knowing the rules. I mean,
Right.
That happened in Ottawa. There's other GMs who have that kind of sort of basic rule mistakes or procedure mistakes. I mean, he's not the only one that would have done that.
I
But
take Steve Simmons at face value, even if the guy, Steve Simmons, is not completely accurate. Like to put his career on the line and ask the question and say 20, even if it wasn't 20, I'm sure that he had a dozen guys on the phone. And for him to create and make up a lie saying con man, liar, salesman. So Steve Simmons did not just come up with this. There's no need for character assassination. John Chikra is too easy a target. He is just too transparently unqualified to run a premier team.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to defend Steve Simmons. And I mean, this is probably not even in the top 10 of the most obnoxious things he's written or said. So, I mean, it's the most recent one, and the way that he approached that. I mean, I've heard other people interview Chayka in the last 2 days that have raised similar sort of questions about his history in a more professional way and allowed him to respond. And quite honestly, some of his responses have been like fairly good, like fairly decent in terms of, I mean, like nobody when they're doing a job interview or nobody when they're being interviewed is going to sit there and say, hey, like I effed up royally. Like, but you're not going to do that. I mean, you kind of try to put the glossiest glow you can on some bad situations. And he's kind of done that, but he's also kind of talked about like how he's going to manage things looking forward. The problem I think he has is that no matter how forward thinking he might be and how everything might be ending up being driven by the numbers, which fits with what Keith Pelly would be looking for in a general manager, because he's a numbers guy. So, I mean, Jacob kind of fits what a Pelly would be looking for. But, I mean, the reason Simmons might be taking the approach he did is like clickbait. I mean, that's unfortunately the world that we live in online, is like you have to have something interesting to say for people to want to click on it. So people that hate Steve Simmons will click on it. People that are all on board with what Simmons was saying about Jacob will click on it. So he's going to get the maximum number of clicks, as opposed to like my take here that, hey, like I think Jake is an egregious hire. Like I don't know why they would do that. Toronto's going to be in a situation where they're going to have to be creative with their cap, creative with trades. They're going to have to try to probably do like win-win deals with teams, as opposed to like, hey, we're getting taken to the woodshed. like, hey, would you like one of our bright prospects and a future first round pick for one of your overpriced defensemen? Like, the Leafs can't be entering into those kind of deals. Now, hopefully for the Leafs, I mean, again, not a Leafs fan, hopefully Jake is as bad as I think he is, because that would mean the Leafs are going to be terrible for the next few years. But like the likelihood is that GMs aren't going to be cutting any deals with this guy. It's going to be hard for him to even make win-win deals.
Yeah.
Because people are going to be looking and saying, like, they're going to be skeptical of what he's doing. I mean, if there's a built-in suspicion about everything that he's doing,
Yeah.
so when he's making comments about a player's health, when he's making comments about whether it's physical health or mental health, we've seen a lot of mental health issues the last couple of years. You saw Victor Hedman's statement, like, he basically missed the playoffs because he needed to take some time out. Like, we saw Linus Ullmark earlier in the year have to take time off because he needed time off. Robin Lehner's career is kind of derailed.
Right.
So, like, if Chayka is making comments about the quality character of some of the guys that he's trading, if every GM he's dealing with is suspicion about whether he's telling the truth or not, that's going to make making deals hard. So that's going to make it exponentially harder on the Leafs to get themselves out of the mess that they're in.
Well, there's 31 guys in this world that Chayka has to deal with, and if
well, there's 30 right now because the Canucks are still looking for their general manager. So,
but if they don't like him, if a third of them, if half of them don't like this guy, that's okay. They can get past that. But if they don't trust him, like if they fundamentally don't trust him, then that's a big issue.
Yeah, that's my point. I mean, I assume if there's 32 general managers, if you like half of those guys, that's probably above average.
Right.
I mean, they're all going to be alpha personalities. They're all going to be pointing out the flaws of one another, and there'll be lots of guys that just butt heads. Right. So, but I mean, it's again like you can make business deals with people you don't like, but you have to be able to trust them. Like, even if you don't like somebody, you can sit there and say, "Yeah, I don't like him," but hey, when they're telling me, like, Nazem Kadri, this is his health, and this is where he's kind of at, and like I got to trust that. I mean, there's a reason. Like, a guy like Craig Conroy in Calgary sounds like he's sort of generally thought of amongst his fellow GMs as being kind of a straight shooter.
Right.
Like, I haven't seen any deals that Craig Conroy's made where you're kind of going, man, that looks like it's a bad deal. You might not agree with the assessment, but you can also go, hey, I can see why he made that deal.
Right.
And I don't think anybody's come back and said, like, oh man, like, Craig Conroy ripped us off, or Craig Conroy sold us a bill of goods.
Right.
So that'd be interesting to see. That's why I'm saying you better learn how to pronounce his name, because you're at worst you're gonna be saying F and John Chayka. So like
so the Leaf fandom went from the pit of despair with this Chikra guy to a few hours later.
Are you trying to get us a Chiclets sponsorship here by mispronouncing Chayka's name?
To a few hours later, winning the bloody lottery. I mean, they had a 15-second clock on, and all those balls just kept on circulating and kept on circulating so that it was utterly random. And then Gary Bettman pronounced, "Hey, buddy, press the button," and then one of those balls would shoot up that single chute and then get trapped at the top.
Well, except for the final one,
and
when it looked like there were two balls in that tube. But we'll talk about that.
And I gotta say this. I didn't even understand what we were looking at. I am not a math guy. I saw the names of certain teams blacked out. I had no idea what was going on. The first number meant nothing. The second and third number also meant nothing. And then they said, oh, well, whatever. And then all of a sudden, boom, 12 comes out. And apparently that was a very, very good thing. The hockey gods decided, hey, we've got to make something right here.
So this is the process, I think, that has gone on behind closed doors for a number of years, where they'd have this. So each draft result, as I understand it, there's number sequences, right? So like they pull out these four balls, and then whatever the sequence of those numbers was, that would be the winner of the lottery. So in this case, when the last number was 12, that was lined up with Toronto Maple Leafs, so they end up getting the pick. Now, I've seen videos that have been circulated that show the number 8 ball in that tube going up. Now, to be fair, I didn't watch it. I was at work, so I was listening to the draft lottery at on the Sportsnet radio. So
I was watching it. It was very fair.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. Well, yeah, you're in Toronto, so of course it was fair, and they probably deleted that video. But I've seen video of like the number 8 ball in that tube, and then the number 12 kind of somehow magically squeaking up behind it. Number 8 was Winnipeg. So to be fair, I'm in Vancouver. I was cheering for a Vancouver win. Vancouver had 3 of the 13 balls could have come up and would have resulted in the Canucks having the first overall pick.
What pick did they get?
Well, they ended up getting third because the San Jose Sharks, of course, win the second overall pick for the second year in a row. 2 years after having won the first overall pick, with Macklin celebrating the year that they were horrible, the year that they had the best odds of winning, the San Jose Sharks win. The Canucks continue their horrible luck in the draft lottery.
Hasn't Edmonton won this half a dozen times?
Oh, but that was back when they had Taylor Hall on their roster.
Okay.
Everybody's had Taylor Hall. Chicago didn't win it, I don't think. Did they win it with Taylor Hall? I think New Jersey won it with Jack Hughes when they had Taylor Hall on their roster. I think Chicago might have had it when they won the Bedard sweepstakes as well. But the Canucks, this has of course been big news in Vancouver, but I was looking at there's a site was going to move over here. Like in the last 10 draft lotteries that the Canucks have been in, they've lost every single one. So they've never moved up. In 56 years of existence, the Canucks have never had the first overall pick. They had second once and they got Trevor Linden. So they did fairly decently with their only second overall pick. They had the second overall pick. They had a trade to get the second overall pick, I think the year they drafted the City.
They had 2 and 3.
Burke made, that's got to be the best draft move in history, is what he did to.
Yeah.
I think he traded for Tampa's first overall, and then he flipped the first overall to Atlanta, got another asset, took seconds. They had second and third. They knew Atlanta was taking Patrick Stefan, so they ended up having second and third to draft the Twins back to back. So that was, if it was first and third, it wouldn't even have been as magical because you're able to bring up 2 and 3 together at the same time. Like the best draft day move of all time. Might have been in any sport, might have been the best draft day move. I'd have to consider that. But in hockey for sure it was. But the Canucks draft lottery, since 2014, they've lost the draft lottery 10 times. So a few times there they were in the playoffs, so they weren't in the lottery. But I think they've got the record for most places dropped in the draft lottery. Because, if you're 12, 13, 14, a lot of times you just stay where you are. So you lose the draft lottery, but you don't drop.
Right.
Like the Canucks have dropped 11 spots, 10. So they average dropping a spot per year.
Well, the Leafs
a lot of years they just stayed flat.
Well, this is the first time the Leafs have won it. So, it is
No, it's not. They won Austin Matthews. They were the worst team in the league that year, but they also won.
Okay.
Right? And that happened to be the last time the Leafs didn't make the playoffs. Right. So every single time the last 11 years that the Leafs haven't made the playoffs, the NHL has gifted them the first overall pick. And of course, this year it looks worse because it's right on the heels of the hiring of John Chicklets, let's call him. Chicklets, we're reaching out to you for a sponsorship.
Right.
We'll call them Chicklets for as long as they want to give us money. And I think I was joking. After spending an hour and going man, this is ridiculous. If any other team, and as you know, my dream scenario was that just one team would have leapfrogged Toronto and Toronto not win. So that Toronto's draft pick would have dropped to 6 and it would have gone to Boston. And I don't know if you saw any clips of the Bruins fans.
No.
Watching the draft lottery. They were probably more apoplectic than Canucks fans, because Canucks fans are used to misery, and draft lottery misery for sure.
Right.
And
Boston's used to winning.
Well, Boston's sitting there going, "Hey, Toronto doesn't have great odds of moving up." Right. Even on the last ball, their odds were only 8%.
Right.
And they got, whatever it was at the outset, I think it might have been 6 or 8% of the outset. It was only 8% going in the last ball. So. That's craziness right there. But Boston's got the solace of they're either getting the Leafs 2027 first overall,
right,
or they're getting an unprotected 2028, which might be the best option of all.
Right.
Because Toronto doesn't have their 27 or their 28.
That's right.
One's going to Philadelphia, one's going to Boston.
Scott Lawton and Brandon Carlo.
Yeah. And one of them is no longer on the team. I think they get a third rounder for Lawton. I think
so. And then they got a second rounder for Bobby McMahon. And then as you have pointed out, Langdon DuPont, the wonder child, who's a man child at 15 and tearing up the W. And is he going to go college hockey to play against men in order to get ready?
I don't think it's been announced. I think that he's intimated that that's probably what he's going to do. And that's what all these top end guys are doing now. All the really good 17, 18-year-olds are going to the NA, going to the and
NCAA.
NCAA.
Right.
I mean, it's a better schedule. You play fewer games, so you get more practice, more time in the gym.
Yeah.
Like they all get to go sort of add a little bit of muscle.
Yeah.
But Landon DuPont is
Heads and tails.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing from a Canuck perspective in not winning this draft is as good a player as Gavin McKenna is, or as good a player as Ivor Stenberg is. I mean, they're both wingers. So to the extent that they're going to impact the game the way that a defenseman or that a center might is muted a little bit. But I know I was talking with some friends here in Vancouver, and I said, like, I would take the 3rd overall pick this year if it meant that we got the 1st overall pick next year.
Right.
I would take because there's a crop of really talented players. Like the Canucks are going to get a really good player at 3.
Yeah.
And they still could end up getting McKenna. I mean, the John Chayka Shield, known as Matt Sundin, is now sort of
right.
I don't know what his exact title is, but based on their press conference together, it sounded
man.
like but basically it sounds like he's there to sort of maybe be the comfortable candy coating for Chayka's personality and Chayka's flaws, to sort of salve the Toronto media. And he will have been in Sweden all year, probably watching Ivor Stenberg. And Stenberg is extremely talented too. Like I think that McKenna and Stenberg should go 1-2 based on their skill level in this draft. But there's a raft of defensemen after, and there's a couple of centermen.
And Langan DuPont, he's like a Cal McCarr, Quinn Hughes type of mobility, but he's also like a Victor Hedman body, isn't he?
He's bigger. Like that's like he's like I think in preparation here, I think I sent you a note saying like think Matthew Schaefer plus. Like he's gonna enter the NHL. And I mean, again, it's hard to project kids that are 17, but based on what everybody's seeing and based on what I'm reading, it's like he's going to have the same kind of impact as a rookie as Matthew Schaefer had. Again, depending what team gets him. I mean, part of the magic of Matthew Schaefer was he goes to a team that really didn't have a number 1 defenseman.
Yeah.
And he was able to step in, and because of the character of the kid, the quality of skating, I mean, just his overall talent, he's able to step in and play like 23 minutes a night. He's more mature than most 18-year-olds coming into the NHL.
For sure.
But it sounds like DuPont, everything you read about him is, I mean, I think he's the first exceptional status a defenseman player. So I mean, you've had guys like I think Missa was one, like Tavares was one, Missa was one, Shane Wright.
Yes.
I think McKenna was one too. I don't think he was an exceptional to go to Erie, was he?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, I don't think there's been a 15-year-old defenseman who's come in. Like I think I was reeling off the numbers to you. I think he had like in his 15-16 season, he had like 60 points in 63 games or something like that.
Yeah.
And this last year, his 16-17 season, so his draft minus 1 year, he's had like 64 points in 73 games.
Right.
Or no, it was 73 points in 64 games is what it was.
Yeah.
So one more game, but he had 13 more points. And he was dominating games. Like I heard a couple of the local guys on the radio here went up to Kamloops to watch when Everett was playing the Blazers, like late in the season here. And like one of them came back and was just like blown away, kind of going like, this is the like you'd see tape of him, you read about like his exploits. He says, but when you see him on the ice, it's another thing. I was listening to
I could be wrong about this, but he's heavier than Schaefer as well, isn't he? He's
yeah.
Yeah.
He's a bigger kid too, and he's a Vancouver kid. I mean, the nice thing for the Canucks, and it might take 10 years for all these guys to work through their entry level contracts. Is Bedard?
Sorry,
Bedard,
are we talking about Celebrini?
I said Bedard, Celebrini, and DuPont are all Lower Mainland kids who all grew up Vancouver fans. So the 3 of them could all probably like as a retirement tour in their late 30s come and sign with Vancouver.
I'm sorry, you've mocked me incessantly over McJesus, but now you have 3 superstars that you're talking about.
The difference, my friend, is you are certain that McDavid is signing. I'm suggesting these guys could potentially do this. I'm also being realistic and going, it's not going to happen in their prime.
I see.
Like I'm going to be 75 watching these guys in their like 17, 18, 19-year seasons.
Right.
Doing a retirement tour,
yeah.
Playing for their home team. So
Right. And they'll still be great.
Yeah. Well, we hope so. Like that's, I mean, by all accounts.
Celebrini is a player. I don't know how that kid is able to shake off the heebie-jeebies, and he's able to step onto an Olympic team where honestly he was auditioning to be in the press box by virtue of age, and then he just decides, no, I belong here. And he played. He kept up with McJesus, and he played extremely well for some of those games. Disappeared a little bit in the final game, but in other games just kept on moving. So
we don't need to relitigate the gold medal game, but I mean,
by the way,
they
I've
outplayed the
looked
Americans. They
again. I've
outplayed
looked
the
again. I do
Americans,
need to
yeah.
say this. I've looked again at the final Jack Hughes goal, and I've also talked to half a dozen dads on some of the hockey teams. Everyone agrees that Binnington was subpar, below average, making saves when all he needed was a big body and the butterfly up tight. So thank God he
Yeah.
made those saves. But when you move left to right, all you need to do is set your feet. And Jack Hughes basically fluffed that shot. That was a subpar shot, went right through him because Binnington is an AHL goalie at this point.
That's a Steve Simmons level of reporting. I've talked to 7 other hockey dads, and
I
all of
said
us
6.
agree.
I said 6.
Well, okay, six plus me. I've 7 hockey dads. 7 out of 7 hockey dads agree
That's
that
right.
Binnington fluffed that shot.
Yes, yes. And he's AHL level.
Yeah.
And that's a quote.
Jordan, how do you respond that 7 GTA hockey dads all think you suck?
I must have talked to different people, is what he would say. Yeah. So,
Exactly.
didn't
It'll be the Keith Pelly. Yeah, we
Yeah.
disagree with that. We've talked to 7 other hockey dads.
yeah, exactly.
Four out of 5 dentists agree that Jordy Binnington is a good goalie.
Should have gone with Logan. But okay, so in terms of this, any other thoughts on the extremely fair lottery process?
Well, yes, I do. I mean, that's there, and there's been tons of lottery talk in Vancouver in the last 3 days, plus building up to it. And I mean, everybody will say, "Hey, there's no perfect system." Basketball is entering. I think they're engaging a new lottery system that really doesn't favor the teams at the bottom at all. And I mean, I
Why
think,
not?
well, because they're trying to like sort of how do you eliminate tanking, right?
But
So I mean, but the one system that the PWHL has adopted it. I think it's called like the gold plan. And I don't know if you guys have talked about Toronto, you haven't missed the playoffs for so long, and you guys probably enjoy just getting gifted first picks overall when you don't make the playoffs. So the gold plan, PWHL adopted it, and it's the plan that sort of suggests that teams start earning points towards the draft lottery. So the team that accumulates the most points after they're eliminated from the playoffs will get the first pick overall. So it's not a lottery system, but so for example, like if Vancouver this year was eliminated from the playoffs on February 15th,
right.
then the points that they accumulate in the standings after February 15th would be their total under this gold plan.
So you tank early and then ramp it up. What's the purpose of that?
Theoretically, but I mean, who's tanking the first 2 months of the season? Nobody's really tanking, and all the coaches will play at that. Nobody starts the season thinking we're going to be the 32nd place team in the league.
Right.
I mean, Vancouver might be thinking that this coming year because they were so far back. I mean, if Vancouver finishes with 70 points next year, that's a 16-point improvement,
right.
And they still might be a bottom 3 team with 74 points.
Right.
And chances are they're not going to make that kind of jump. They don't have that kind of additional talent coming. They were better near the end of the season, and they had a better, in quotation marks, culture in the team. But we'll see how that plays out next year, right?
Right.
But they're probably not making a 16-point jump next year. So they're going to probably be a bottom 3 team. They'll have a top 5 pick next year, whether they win or whether they're not going to win the lottery. I mean, we can all sort of agree that that's probably going to be the case. But I mean, the PWHL, the gold plan, I mean, there's something attractive to it. So it's the teams that are near the bottom should, in theory, if they're not horrible. So to your point, if a team tanks earlier in the year,
yes,
are they really going to be good enough to accumulate a lot of points? This year, I haven't done the math, and I'm going to do a bit of research after just to sort of see. It might be a Thursday night project, but I haven't checked to see how the Canucks would have done in this gold plan this year. I'm pretty certain they wouldn't have ended up with the first overall pick because they did not accumulate a lot of points.
I see.
After Chicago, again, another team that was probably eliminated early, didn't accumulate a lot of points after. So I mean, it rewards teams that are bad, but not blatantly tanking. Because if you're bad, you're still probably going to get points near the end of the year. And the teams that are really good, the likelihood of a San Jose jumping up to 1 or 2 is reduced because they're only going to be eliminated when were they eliminated? Maybe the last week or 2 weeks of the season.
Right.
So unless they go 6-0 in their final 6 games and get 12 points,
Right.
I mean, the Canucks probably had 12 points after they were eliminated, but not many more. So it's possible. But the teams that are eliminated the final week or 2 weeks are probably going to be picking in that 10 to 15 spots, which is, I think, what the league kind of wants, right? Like you want to help the teams that are not as good get better by acquiring, as we're seeing. I mean, the teams that are good, like I think when we looked at the NHL scoring at the end of the year, like every single one of those guys, except for Pasternak, I think, was a top 10 pick. Right? So like that's how it's unfortunate, I think, how you have to build, particularly like with the salary cap going up the next 2 or 3 years.
Right.
There's not going to be a lot of really good free agents kicking around.
Right.
Like all the good free agents who were like at the start of 2025 season, who were like, hey, these guys could be free agents into the year. Like most of them were signed up.
Okay, so let's tap your thoughts here as to who the potential picks can be, and let's just focus in on the Canadian teams, and also we'll throw in the Kraken because we have an affinity for them. Okay, so Toronto surprise.
I don't know if we have an affinity for them. We've got a friend who lives in Seattle.
We have an affinity for
So
a friend who lives in Seattle.
We have sympathy for them. How's that?
So Toronto is number 1, of course. We've gone through that. Vancouver's number 3, Calgary at 6, Winnipeg at 8, and of course our friends in Seattle at 7. So 1, 3, 6, 7, 8. So 1, who would you choose? Would you go McKenna or would you go Stenberg?
Well, I mean,
and 3 reasons why. Quick.
Okay. Well,
who would you choose?
I would
bang,
choose
bang.
I would choose McKenna.
Okay.
If you want 3 reasons, 3 reasons would be 1, he's Canadian, so that's going to help with your marketing in a Canadian market.
Oh, that's not a good reason. Seriously?
Sure, because this is, as you've seen by the Pelly hire and the of Cheka, business is a big part of what goes on here, right? Numbers is a big part. So,
who's the better player?
Well, the more upside is probably McKenna. More offensive upside is probably McKenna.
Okay.
Stenberg is probably more ready to step in from what he's been playing against men.
Yes.
In Sweden. He is putting up numbers that as a 17-year-old in the Swedish elite league that only the Sedins put up.
Okay.
So that's the kind of talent that you're probably looking at. They're both wingers, so that's the thing for the Leafs, it really should come down to Stenberg or McKenna.
Yes.
And because those are the 2 most talented players. I think if you pick either one of those guys, you're doing okay. The reason I would personally, I like Stenberg. When I hear a guy like Jason Bukala, whose prospect analysis is I think highly of, and he's talking about Stenberg being like Alexander Barkov except on the wing.
Wow,
and
that's high praise.
Yeah, and and the comparisons he's made is that Stenberg will be a harder player in the most important times, being the playoffs, than McKenna is likely to be. Stenberg is more physical right now. They're both roughly the same size, but I think that Stenberg's a little bit maybe stockier. He's more built to play the wing in the playoffs than McKenna is right now. McKenna's got time, obviously, to fill out. They're both 17, 18-year-old kids, right? Their bodies are going to fill out.
Right.
And Bukala sort of said that McKenna probably has more dynamic play. He's sort of more gifted offensively.
Right.
But the question would be, are you going to trade 15 more points in the regular season for somebody who's harder to play against in the playoffs?
Okay.
And not every team is going to have somebody on the ice who's going to be chirping about Gavin McKenna's mom to bring out that side of him.
Right.
So, but the comforting thing, a lot of Canadian markets kind of, when he sort of punches another kid out for bad mouthing his mom, his draft stock went up in Canadian markets because that sounds like something you'd see on Shoresy.
Right. Okay.
I would go Stenberg. I think the Leafs should probably go McKenna.
Right.
In part because they don't know what's happening with Austin Matthews.
Okay. And so Vancouver's at 3. Say that you have a clear board, you can choose who you want. Who are you choosing?
Well, if McKenna and Stenberg go 1-2, like they probably should, based on
San Jose, I have read, may target a defenseman because they're stacked up top.
Well, that's the thing. I'm saying, so I'd say this is, if San Jose goes a defenseman, then you take either McKenna or Stenberg, whoever Toronto passes on. Okay. Now, if Toronto goes defenseman, and I've read some people say they probably should do that because they're not going to have a first round pick in 27 or 28.
Right.
They have offensive talent. They're really sort of bare the back end. Like there's enough high-end offensive defensemen to go at here. But let's just, if we're talking about Vancouver, we can go like if Stenberg and McKenna go in whatever order at 1 and 2, like there are 4 young defensemen
I
that the
see.
Canucks can take a pick of. I mean,
You
the
can only
guy,
pick you can only pick one. So
if
who would you
if
pick?
if I could only pick one, I would probably still go. Keaton Veerhoff has been sort of
Yeah, you've mentioned
number 3,
Yeah.
like throughout the year. He's kind of dropped off a little bit, and that's, I don't know if that's some recency bias. His numbers are going to be a little bit deflated because he was playing in the NCAA.
3 reasons why you prefer him slightly over the next 3 defensemen.
I think that I think he's a bigger body
Right.
than all of them. He's been playing a year against men in the NCAA where the other kids have been playing. Like
Yeah.
the other guys, Reed and Carroll's, the 4th guy is Albert Smits, and he's from Latvia. And he's been drawing some comparisons to Moritz Seider, but he's probably 4th on that list. So
Right.
the 4 defensemen are Veerhoff, Reed, Carrolls, and Smits.
Okay.
And I would probably lean towards Veerhoff. I mean, he's
Bigger
had
body, better competition.
He's a bigger body. I think he is more well-rounded than all of them. I think he has the highest floor of those
Ceiling?
4 guys.
Yeah.
He might not have the same ceiling as, say, a Reed or a Carroll's,
Oh, I see. Okay.
but he's got the higher floor, and there's nothing to say that he can't sort of
Right.
elevate, right? Like,
Right.
and they also have Z Buyam as a
Yes.
potential PP1 guy, so they don't need to draft a power play 1 guy.
He was the
Veerhoff's-
centerpiece coming back on Quinn, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and I mean that deal is looking pretty good because Rossi is looking like a good number 2 center,
Spark plug.
and Liam Ogren has, now that he's had a shot.
He's got wheels.
Yeah, and he's looking like for sure a bottom 6 guy, like a quality bottom 6 guy, and he might be able to play up the lineup at the end of the year. I think he and Linus Karlsson were playing with Pedersen, and they had some good results together.
Good.
And a bunch of Swedish guys, throw them together. Canucks have had experience or had success with Swedish guys, but if I'm the Canucks, I'm probably taking Veerhoff.
Veerhoff. Okay.
Yeah.
And now we're moving to our buddies in Calgary. Now this is
Yeah.
important because our friends are extremely knowledgeable and they eat,
Well,
breathe, and crap.
dial the knowledgeable stuff back.
They're opinionated and they eat, sleep, and crap hockey. So this is going to be a scrutinized pick. So at 6, because of the various permutations, I'm going to allow you 2 choices. Your first choice, and then you just play the odds and then say second. But your first choice, you got to give me the 3 reasons why you choose them there. And I know you're looking at Calgary. Calgary's got some holes to fill, et cetera, et cetera. So that's part of the analysis.
Well, all these teams should, in theory, be taking the best player available on their board, however they rank it.
Yeah.
Like they don't necessarily need to be drafting for position.
Okay.
Like the Flames have some young guys up front. They've got Zane Parekh in the back. They should be taking the best player available. The best player available is probably going to be one of those 4 defensemen.
Yeah, the Smits guy.
I would, and it probably ends up being Smits. I mean, I think they'd probably like it if it was Carson Carrolls because I think he's from that area. But I think Carrolls is a guy that they would like. Smits is probably the guy. The outlier could potentially be Caleb Malhotra has been the guy whose stock has been rising.
I've read that people are really high on this kid.
Yeah, well, he had an amazing playoffs in it was the Brantford Bulldogs who just got upset by the Barrie Colts. I think everyone was thinking like if Malhotra had led them to the Memorial Cup. I mean, there's talk in Vancouver here that the Canucks might take him at 3rd because they're so desperate for a center.
Wow.
And I mean, a lot of the analysis I've heard like was like during the regular season, Malhotra's numbers were like he was like averaging like a point like 1.25 or 1.3 points per game.
Right.
And I think Thomas Durant is the guy in the Athletic who's doing the numbers. He was saying like, hey, like that looks impressive and he's a really good playoffs, but that 1.25 number is less than what you saw from Shane Wright and Sam Bennett when they in their draft years.
Right.
They averaged like 1.5 points per game. Michael Missa last year was like 2 points per game.
Right.
And so he's like going like the 1.25 average is kind of what you'd sort of see from like he was drawing the comparison to Jake O'Brien, who was I think the 8th or 9th pick overall the year before.
Okay.
So that's kind of where Malhotra's numbers were prior to this playoff. And then he's kind of skyrocketed up. He's kind of viewed as the best center that's available. So, I mean, if he doesn't go, I mean, I think a lot of people are now thinking he might go 5th to the Rangers. If he doesn't go to the Rangers and the Rangers go defenseman, he could be there in the mix. Like, do you want Malhotra or do you want Smits?
Right.
Depends what they think of their young. I mean, again, I think Calgary needs everything. So they should be taking the best player available.
Right.
And I think that, I mean, Calgary has later picks in the first round and early second round. Vancouver's the same. Like they can go get, like there are forwards. This is a pretty deep draft. Like there will be decent forwards and later in the first round. Now again, those guys are a bit of a 50-50 crapshoot as to whether they end up making the NHL, but they've got lottery tickets like on forwards that they can take later, where
Right.
these defensemen are all kind of sort of the consensus is here's these 4 defensemen that are all potentially first pairing guys. They might not be number 1 guys, but they could be your number 2 as part of a first pairing.
Right. Blue chip. Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. That's a good overview. Winnipeg at number 8. We're doing that simply because Winnipeg's a Canadian team. So what do you think? Oh, actually, sorry, we can't skip over Seattle. Seattle's at number 7. So what does Seattle need? They're not going to have Shane Wright for much longer. They're shopping him, right?
Well, potentially, yeah. So that means if Seattle would be like a good landing spot for like a Malhotra. There's a Swedish center, Viggo Bjork, who's also, he was kind of an early 20 or like a early 20s kind of projection at the start of the year. But
Right.
he had a really good World Juniors with Stenberg. Like he almost was like he was as impressive as Stenberg was. And all of a sudden he's like leaping up to the like early like mid-teens kind of pick. And now he's kind of viewed as he's going to be one of the sort of 8 to 11, 8 to 12 guys going, depending again. The nice thing about him is he's a center. The Swedes always come, they're always kind of built to be two-way forwards.
Right.
There's I mean, they're either super talented, like electric forwards with no defensive skill, or the centers though. If you're a center from Sweden, you're almost always like a good two-way player.
Right.
So coaches are going to love that. So that might be a guy again, but is that going to fit the if they drafted a Viggo Bjork? Is that like, oh hey, we already got Matty Beniers. He's a responsible two-way forward that gets 60 points. Oh, we already have Shane Wright, who is like not going to be like the first overall talent that people thought, but is he now going to be a defensively responsible number 2, number 3 center? Like, are they going to have a bunch of number 2 centers?
Shane Wright is a 3C, isn't he?
Well, he is right now, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's because they're paying Chandler Stevenson like $6 million a year. And
Shane Wright is
Shane Wright's still developing, right?
he's hit his ceiling, hasn't he?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
He hasn't had. I mean, he was very good in Coachella, not the concert. The
Interesting.
the Coachella Firebirds.
Right. Surprisingly, in his rookie season, I saw a compilation video of him not being able to hold his ground on standard bump plays along the boards and in the corners and all the rest of it. Third and fourth liners on the other team who were not big at all were just knocking him off balance constantly. He couldn't hold his position.
Yeah,
And now he's become a lot stronger since then.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
good.
and how old is he? Right. I mean, again, and
He's
this is. I mean, I think players who come up with the kind of attention on them,
Yes.
like a guy like Shane Wright. I mean, some of it. I mean, I kind of wonder where. I mean, was he sort of taken away from some of his development because he was doing like promotional stuff? I mean, I don't know what happened when he was like 17, 18.
Oh, he got hit with COVID as well.
Yeah, and his draft stock fell. Like that's, I mean, so he's coming along. I mean, that's what happened with Marco Rossi in Minnesota too, right? Like, I think he had COVID. He had a long COVID recovery period. He looked really good for Vancouver the last 2 months of the year. Once he got
Rossi's
back.
tiny, isn't he?
Rossi?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rossi's like 5'9". I think he's 5'10" in your program, 5'8" in your hearts. So but
I just found out that
he's looked good
Caulfield is 5'7".
in your program.
Is he smaller than 5'7"?
Oh, I think so. I think all those small guys aren't played. Like I remember Cliff Ronning was old Vancouver. I don't know if you know that old Vancouver Canuck guy, played for St. Louis as well.
I know Cliff Ronning, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, he was listed, I think, at 5'8" in the program, and I heard him interviewed on one of those sort of Canuck alumni bits on the radio they do here. They're really, really good. By the way, if you ever had a chance to hear, I think Joey Kenworth does them. But he was interviewed, and he's like, he remembers like looking at a program going 5'8", like did they measure me in my skates, like kind of thing, right? Like so
Wow,
I think he's 5'5", 5'6", right?
Oh man.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Seattle, you've mentioned Bjork, and then just to finish out the Canadian content, number 8. Is it speculative, or are there a couple of candidates who are solidly in the 8 spot?
Well, I mean, there's McKenna Stenberg, there's the 4 defensemen we talked about. We've talked about Malhotra and Bjork, and then there's a kid who he was higher up the ranking. He kind of dropped off as well. His name's Tynan Lawrence.
Yeah.
He started in the Q this year, and then he ended up going, I think it's Boston University he's at. He didn't have a very good start in the second half of the year in Boston University. And so his draft stock has fallen a little bit, but it's similar to kind of the chatter you heard about McKenna at the start of the year. Like there were some clowns who were having McKinnon down at like fourth or fifth on
Right.
their lists.
Right.
And that was either clickbait or they don't understand because he got off to a slower start at Penn State. Well,
Right.
McKenna's a young kid adjusting to playing in the NCAA, figuring his way, and he had a spectacular second half of his NCAA season.
When he wasn't
And
punchy.
and Tynan Lawrence went from the Q mid-season to Boston University.
I see.
And I mean, I think whoever gets him, if he falls to like an eighth spot, like that might be a spot that Winnipeg grabs him. They might
Okay.
grab a New York just because um, getting a Swedish kid coming to Winnipeg, they might not think it's that bad of a place to live.
Yeah.
Where other kids who are kind of got big markets, I mean, if you come from Boston and then I'm going to Winnipeg, so you're at Boston University and I'm going to Winnipeg, you might be going, hey, how soon can I Pierre-Luc Dubois myself out of Winnipeg, right? So I mean,
True.
but I think Winnipeg's going to take. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that the first like McKinnon Stenberg should go 1-2. I think the four defensemen should probably go 3-6.
Yeah.
And then 7, 8, 9 should probably be Malhotra, Lawrence, Bjork in some order
Right. Okay.
based on what I'm reading. But again, there's a couple other kids that are coming
Right.
up. I mean,
Right.
NHL GMs always love their centers, and there's 3 really good ones that if anybody took those guys at 7, 8, 9, nobody's going to go, oh, those guys made a mistake.
Right. Right.
And
Okay.
that's I mean, the good thing for the GMs, even Chayka, like I don't think Chayka is the only one who could potentially, in quotation marks, make a mistake picking 1 overall. Because I think everything else will fall down to you. I mean, if the Canucks take one of the 4 defensemen at 3-4, at 3,
Yeah.
like it's kind of a preference. Like they're all the margins. I mean, you hear Bukala, you hear Shane Malloy and other expert at like a prospect that's where he's been doing it for like 15, 16 years. Like those guys will all tell you, like, hey, the margins here are razor thin, and it could come down to what did they say in an interview, like how they run you, and it could come down again to like in Vancouver's case, hey, we got a PP1 guy. Calgary's the same way. They got Parekh, who they're kind of if Parech's not going to be their power play 1 guy, is he good enough defensively to be in their top 4 regularly?
Is that the loudmouth, disrespectful rookie?
Well, yeah, until he was, according to the Calgary media, yeah.
I see.
But
Okay.
yeah, so anyways, I mean, I think any of those centers would be a good pick for Seattle or Winnipeg. I think if 3, 4, 5, 6 take a shot at Malhotra, which if you need a center and you like centers, Malhotra's going to probably interview well. He's got a dad who spent years in the NHL. He's now a coach with the Abbotsford Canucks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the interesting twist here in Vancouver is for the folks who are talking about, well, do we take Malhotra at 3? They're already then discounting, saying, well, if we take Caleb Malhotra, there's no way we can hire Manny Malhotra to be the coach.
Right.
And there's lots of people in this local market. I mean, Malhotra took the Abbotsford Canucks to a Calder Cup last year, and he's been highly sought after. And that's the other thing, like with the Canucks GM search and coach search, they don't have a coach search because Foot's still the coach. But I mean, you've got other organizations calling up asking for permission to speak to Ryan Johnson, who's the GM of the Abbotsford Canucks, and he's largely been slated to be a future GM here in Vancouver. Nashville asked for permission to speak with him, and the Canucks reportedly turned that down. Like, if you're turning down a guy for an opportunity to go be a GM someplace else, you better be making him something significant in the organization here.
Definitely.
Otherwise, you're blocking somebody's opportunity. And Malhotra, again, if you draft Caleb Malhotra, then it's like, well, we probably should be saying goodbye to Manny Malhotra because somebody somewhere is going to be making an offer to you.
Right.
And you really can't block a guy from being an AHL coach to being, even if it's an NHL assistant coach, if that's where he wants to go next.
Yeah.
I think he's been an assistant coach in Toronto. So
yeah, he ran our power play into the ground.
that's because he's a penalty killer.
I see.
So he might have been viewing it through the penalty killer lens. How do I shut down Austin Matthews?
Okay, so let's talk about playoffs. And even though we're in the second round, let's just do a quick little recap of some of the notable first round. I think the series du jour, the crown piece de resistance was Dallas versus Minnesota. Your Quinn Hughes was rocking and rolling in that series. Now, he did get knocked down by McKinnon in the last game in the second round. I didn't see him take much contact in the first round. I saw him wheeling about and dishing left and right.
Yeah, well, no, he's been really good since he's gone to Minnesota. That's the reason they acquired him. And I mean, I don't know if this playoffs is going to be enough for him to re-up in the off season or commit to Minnesota. I think he's got 1 more year left there. So at least have 1 other playoff run unless they decide to trade him like Vancouver did. But like that series was, I mean, the bits that I saw of it were like pretty fantastic hockey.
Did Wallstead outplay Oettinger?
Yeah, well, Wallstat was very good. I mean, I think the last couple of games you sort of saw that Dallas was a little tired. They lost Rope. I mean, you lose your number one center, so you lose Rope Hintz. Like
Right.
that by itself could have been enough of a difference because everybody else has to sort of move up
Yep.
the pecking order. And Dallas has played Dallas. That's like Edmonton. Dallas has played a lot of hockey. They've been in the conference final the last 3 years.
True.
So that group has played a lot. They're also a little bit older. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Are they going to sign Jason Robertson back? Um,
Right.
so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in Dallas. But that was a great series. And again, like the Tampa Montreal series was as low scoring as it was. It was really, really good hockey.
I gotta say, like I am not a Montreal fan at all, obviously, but I am impressed with their team. I like the Montreal team, and I think the Sabres are just trucking. I think I said at the beginning of the season there's just 0% chance. There's no way the Sabres are going to make the playoffs, and then of course they went crazy, but they are like Montreal and the Sabres. Both teams are rocking and rolling. So what'd you think then? Montreal, Tampa, low scoring. Kucherov was not himself. Hedman is obviously not playing. And I think several of the Lightning players probably were injured. But what'd you think?
Well, I mean, game seven. Tampa Bay probably deserved to win that game. I
Sure.
mean, when you only get 9 shots in a playoff game, you should not win it.
They solved Vasilevsky though, didn't they?
Um,
They made him look more normal.
well, I mean, how do you say you solve somebody when you score 2 goals? Like, I mean, Newhook was kind of a lucky bounce
Right.
on the winning goal. In game five, I think Texier's goal coming down the wing was, I mean, it wasn't a great shot. It kind of handcuffed Vasilevsky, and so that one probably that cost them that game. So I mean, I think Tampa deserved to win game five. Montreal. So the last 3 games, I think the teams that won didn't deserve to win, and the teams that lost should have won those games.
Right.
That would have resulted in a Tampa Bay series win.
Right. Right.
Based on the Buffalo Tampa games during the season, I would have loved to have seen a Buffalo Tampa Bay series.
Right.
But I mean, I agree. I mean, Montreal, again, I grew up as a Bruins fan, so I was not a Montreal Canadiens fan at all. And I had lots of heartbreaking Hockey Night in Canada nights watching the Habs beat the Bruins. But I mean, this team, again, like, with Vancouver, Toronto should be taking note as well. Like, you look at how they've managed to sort of rebuild that team, and also being aware that it took 5-6 years
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
high draft picks, and they hit on some of them. And some of them were also making trades, like
Yes.
getting Nick Suzuki out of Vegas.
Yeah.
is turned out to be magic. You get a 100-point center, drafting Cole Caulfield at 15.
Yeah.
Again, another one of those. I think I remember Craig Button recently sort of talking
Taking
about.
Lane Hudson.
Yep. Well, but they got him in the second round. It's not like he was a first rounder, right?
Well, I mean, Lane Hudson, I mean, who would have thunk it? Jeez.
Yep. Well, and he's kind of like Quinn Hughes isn't a big guy either, right?
Well, Quinn Hughes is what, 3 inches taller than him, 2 inches taller than him.
Yeah, but it's not like Quinn Hughes is 6'2" and Lane Hudson's 5'8". Right?
Yeah.
But where I was going was these are guys who are under 6 feet who are playing defense, and they're playing it well enough because they know where to be positionally.
That's right.
Like neither one of them have got long sticks. Like you watch some of these games, like some of these power plays where you got I'm thinking particularly a guy like Braden McNabb in Vegas kind of stands out to me because on their Stanley Cup run, I mean, all of their defensemen were big hulking, like they're all 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", long sticks. When you're playing a power play and you're able to sort of move your stick around and block lanes and things like that,
Right.
you're pushing guys further out.
Right.
Like it makes your box a little bit bigger, right?
Right.
So, but I mean, Vegas, Utah was a good series. I'm just going back now to the playoff rounds. I thought Vegas, Utah was an entertaining series. Utah is going to be a good team coming up here.
Yeah, hate Vegas.
We saw Anaheim, Edmonton, and Anaheim looks like Anaheim's 2 games against Vegas. They should probably be going back 2-0.
McJesus with a fractured foot ankle. That's phenomenal. I know the boot is, you set your foot in place and the boot, but no, I mean, that's phenomenal.
Well,
I can't believe that.
But also, I mean, and I know we all like applaud our hockey warriors who play through all this stuff. Like when you hear like Matthew Tkachuk played through his like groin muscles torn completely off the bone.
Right.
And I think I heard somewhere that like Nikita Zadorov had some
torn ACL.
Yeah, or it was MCL. I think it torn MCL for a month.
Yeah.
Like what? Like, I mean, we applaud these guys, but it's also like, hey, what are you doing for your health? And like, McDavid must have known at some point in that Anaheim series even if we get through this,
Yeah.
how are we going to beat Vegas?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And even if we get through Vegas,
Right.
how are we going to beat Colorado presumptively?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
at some point, particularly that third period against Anaheim in Game 6, he must have said, well, I'll go through the motions here,
Yeah.
but we're probably like, I'll take the summer to heal.
Yeah. For sure.
And it's also, I mean, I wonder how much of him that fractured ankle impacted some of his thoughts when he's doing his sort of post-series pressers and end of the year pressers, and he's kind of like, hey, we got to get better.
Yeah. He looked calm. Yeah. So I don't know. Okay. The Sabres. The Sabres are playing very well.
Yep.
They are, wow, that's a very impressive team.
And I guess, again, talking about like players, I mean, we'll talk about like Zach Benson is a guy, again, a Vancouver kid that the Canucks passed on for Tom Wielander. Tom Wielander looks like he's gonna be a really, really good defenseman. But like I heard Kevin BX, I think last night post games, we were talking about how Benson's like a smaller, undersized, but he's kind of got a rat personality to him. Peyton Krebs is another sort of smaller, undersized guy, another guy that comes from Vegas. He's going to be helping out Buffalo. I think they got Alex Tuck in that same deal. I think it was the Jack Eichel deal. Anyways, like there's a couple of smaller, undersized guys. Logan Stankoven is playing lights out right now in Carolina. Another sort of 5'8" guy in your program. I don't know how tall he actually is, but there's undersized guys who are like talented. I heard some analysis again of sort of Canuck drafts over the years recently where they've taken, particularly the Jim Benning area, where they drafted like body types and projectable skills and sort of forewent the, hey, here's a smaller guy that we can't project that they're going to be a big body on the wing in the playoffs.
Right.
And like maybe the league is going to be shifting, particularly if we see that, and he's going to put Cole Caulfield lighting it up 50 goal a year in Montreal.
Right.
Like, are some of these smaller guys, should teams be saying, hey, you know what? Like maybe the best player available isn't 6'2". Maybe the best player available is 5'9".
Right.
And maybe we should be drafting those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is part of the value of those players the fact that you get them later? Like Zach Benson went 13th overall in the draft. So is he ever going to go, a guy like that ever going to go 7 or 8?
Right.
And that's, again, are teams like Toronto, San Jose going to pass on like 5'11" McKenna, 5'10" Stenberg wingers for the 6'2", 6'3" right shot defenseman?
Right.
Like, are we going to see a trend towards like, hey, are we going to get the more skilled guy even if they're 5'9"? Now, again, like Dexa was pointing out that guys like Benson and Stankoven are playing like they're playing bigger than their size.
Yeah, yeah.
So they go in with an attitude like, it's okay if you're 5'8", 5'9", if you're prepared to go to the net. Like that's what's impressive about a guy like Cole Caulfield. Like he can snipe, but how many goals do you sort of see where he's like tapping one in from the post and getting a pass? Like he's not afraid to go to the net.
It's the Brad Marchand school of hockey.
Yep. Well, again, and we're always amazed that these guys exist.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe there should be more of them.
Right.
Like maybe if more guys like that got a chance, you'd see those kind of performances.
Let's switch over to your beloved Vancouver Canucks. So apparently you guys need a GM. Apparently you also need a president. And apparently you guys have turned against Adam Foote, NHL alum, and you probably need a coach.
Well, I think the new GM will make a decision on the coach. Like there's been some discussion.
So you need a president, don't you?
But, well, yeah, because Jim Rutherford was the president of hockey operations. He's kind of announced that he's going to be taking a step back into an advisory role. Whether that's true or not, we'll see. Because
you guys should poach Chikra from us.
No thanks.
He's a good corporate speak guy.
Well, there were some discussions last week about the Canucks potentially poaching Shane Doan, who I think is an advisor in Toronto, and bringing him to Vancouver.
I'm actually surprised that Leafs didn't elevate Shane Doan.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things too, that when teams don't elevate guys within their own organization, is that telling, or what's the deal there? But I mean, Doan's kind of viewed, I think, largely as being a pretty like high character. He was a high character guy as a player.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's one of the things they were talking about here is, like I mentioned before, Ryan Johnson, who's the GM of the Abbotsford Canucks, and he's been tabbed for quite a while, I think, as a future GM of the Canucks. And maybe bringing him in with a guy like Doan in the president role. Again, you'd have as an umbrella guy Rutherford there, maybe bringing all those guys along,
right.
And then they could collectively decide what do they do about Foote. I mean, the comments that I was hearing like earlier this week about Foote was, well, if they were going to move on from him, you think that they would have already moved on from him.
Yeah.
Like it'd be a bad thing to do or a tough spot to put a new GM in to say, hey, the first thing we'd like you to do is fire the coach.
Well, yeah, it comes with the territory, but so the Leafs were in the same situation, and now they're worse off for having chosen him. But Vancouver really has to choose a GM in the next 10 days or so. I mean, like if you want any effect on the draft, I mean, you got to let a guy come in, you got to let him talk with the organization. You got to come up with a plan, unless you're allowing your head scout to just run the draft for you.
Well, I think the head scout was their previous GM, like Patrick Alvine has a scouting background, and he's the guy who was going around watching. Well, I mean, they were saying here, like there's some talk about, well, do they bring him back in some sort of role here in the organization? And I'm like, well, I don't know how you do that. Like,
Yeah, I'm sure.
if I was him, I would be like, oh, I've been promoted to head scout from GM. But he's apparently done, and he has apparently a good eye for talent. I mean, it seems like they've done better on their pro scouting than on some of their amateur scouting. But
You need somebody in charge, and you need them in charge before mid-May.
well, what you need is a guy who's going to be sort of saying, here's what the plan is. Particularly, um, again, like let's say Stenberg and McKenna go 1-2, and there's those four defensemen.
Yeah.
Like they all have got various attributes, but the GM who's plotting a future course for this team, who has an idea, might pick one of those guys over somebody else that the scouts like,
Of
depending
course.
on the vision they have for the team, right? So that,
Here's
I mean,
some
I
here's some
agree
free
with you.
advice. Here's some free advice. Just it is the absolutely most important decision that your owner is going to make. So just engage an executive search firm. They'll come back with very good. I mean, I hear that John Ferguson Jr. is free. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
Well,
the old saw. Like as Canadians, we watched George Bush Jr. and we had thoughts like, oh my God, this is possibly the worst president ever. And then of course someone else comes in, and then you realize that you look back fondly on George Bush Jr. and say, wow, those were good days. And so John Ferguson Jr. had the ignominious distinction of being that guy completely out of his depth. And, I mean, within what, 30 seconds, Chikra now has assumed that mantle firmly. But anyways, yeah, you guys got to get on top of it. I don't understand what the delay is.
well,
Although if
they've
Rutherford has been humming and hawing, then that maybe explains it all.
well, I mean, a brief sort of summary here was how sort of clownish it's been. Is there were stories like 2 or 3 weeks ago about the fact that there were three different GM lists, and so like
Three
there was
three
there was like
candidates
no
or
no
three.
three. So there was like the owners list, Rutherford's list, and then somebody else. Like there was three different lists that were apparently circulating.
It's not
But
that complicated.
they've interviewed they've interviewed a number of guys for the sounds of it. A lot of whom have been dropped off. They're apparently down to 5 candidates now. One of whom is Ryan Johnson. And again, for my liking, I would say like I would like to see Ryan Johnson get it. He's done a very good job managing that Abbotsford team,
Right.
bringing in guys.
Right.
You saw a level of success
Right.
and building a team with a culture that
Yeah.
ended up going on a run and winning the Calder Trophy or the Calder Cup. Like, so I'd like to see him get it, but bring in like, and he might bring in fresh ideas
Yeah.
that weren't
Yeah.
being employed at the Canuck level.
Yeah.
Bring in an outside voice. Bring in a guy like Dome,
Yeah.
who's got some cachet in the league. Bring him in as kind of a face who's also going to bring different perspectives from having been with the Leafs, having been in the Coyotes organization for a while. Like, bring that in, then they can make a decision about Foot. Like once you get your new president, new GM in place, whatever order they hire those guys, and hopefully it happens sooner than later. They can make a decision about Foot. And I was hearing that some of the analysis of Foot, and I think I mentioned earlier the fact that if they were going to move on from him, they probably would have. And generally, you let a new GM kind of decide what they want to do. But the owners in this case might be saying, hey, if we're going to be bad, why am I paying somebody else to coach? Like, why don't we just keep Foot? The contrary argument to that is, well, do you want another year of this kind of losing culture? Is that going to end up putting a ceiling on some of these young guys in terms of their expectations? Like, are you going to end up being the Oilers of the early 2010s,
Yeah.
who get a successive run of first round picks, but they never can even get into the playoffs? They don't get good until they get lottery luck with McJesus, right? So
This kind of
that's
talk about the salary of a coach, I think, is just code and the anxiety playing out of the cheapness of the owner, because that's stupid talk. That's like debating whether or not you need a personal chef or we can just order and like these are pennies. I mean, these are your
Oh,
pro players.
yeah, no,
These
I
are your
hear you.
pro players. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta tilt the field in your favor. If you are debating a coach, then I'm sorry, you're talking about the wrong. Then all of a sudden you've earned yourself a lunch with Pelly because he'll actually debate that with you because
Well,
that's his level.
I mean, what I think would sell in this marketplace, and I think what people would be like going to a lunch analogy, I think the team would be hungry to sort of see the Johnson Malhotra team that has had success in Alberta,
Yeah.
or in Abbotsford.
Yeah.
But they're also both people that other teams in the league are calling up about.
Yeah.
So if you've got people in house that other people are clamoring to hire,
Right.
shouldn't you be looking and going, hey, we hired these guys in the first place. Maybe we actually made a smart decision here
Right.
and promote those guys, bring in a new team behind,
Right.
and hire a president of hockey operations that maybe brings an outside perspective. So you have a balance. So it's not all just
Yeah.
internal.
Yeah.
Bring in somebody else from outside, brings a different perspective, and go from there. Let that hockey operations guy, again, that's where hiring a guy like a Shane Doan would be fantastic. Again, like well respected in the league. He's a character guy. He's probably going to be looking at other guys and sort of saying, hey, they're character people. Get those guys in running the AHL team. See if you can get your next generation of coaching leaders. And
I'd ask you not to touch Shane Doan though, because he's the only reason why Austin Matthews is placated here in Toronto. They brought in Shane Doan just to be his buddy. So don't take him away. I mean,
well,
Austin Matthews has got enough problems as it is.
they just brought in Arizona legend John Chaykin out of to deal with Austin Matthews'
Yeah.
concerns.
I
So
guarantee you Pelly did not know, and it never occurred to him to talk to Shane Doan that the two would have somehow overlapped. Anyways, Pelly doesn't know hockey. Pelly knows corporate speak. So let's talk about the topic du jour, which is McJesus certainly looks unhappy. Leon Draisaitl, who thankfully, gratefully to the fan bases, actually says something when he talks. Leon Draisaitl tends to talk like an open book, and Leon Draisaitl said, "Look, you got the world's best player. Of course, you're going to try to win. We've got 2 years, and God knows what happens after that. We got to go get better because we went backwards." Now, this coupled with the highly publicized comment, completely unprovoked, about a month or 6 weeks before the playoffs started, where Leon Draisaitl said, "Oh, it was around the break," and he said, everyone's got to improve, and it starts at the top, and he called out management and all the rest of it. So the two superstars are unhappy, but Connor he's in a pickle because he's there for 2 more years.
well, but so it's not really a pickle. I mean, his 2-year contract probably looks pretty smart now from his perspective because if they don't turn this around, then it's one, his contract could be like I don't see him sort of demanding a trade this year. But if they're not good next year, would he be willing to move in the final year of his contract? And it's at an amount that would be movable, and the Oilers might only have to retain part of it for half a year. And what could they get for even one playoff run for McDavid?
You're right, but I've got one word for you as to why McDavid is in a pickle, and that is Jarry and Jack Campbell equal $8 million. Like Jarry, unfortunately, his contract is not just for another 12 months, and the guy is expensive and he's unplayable. Like
Oh no, he's playable.
he would easily make it through waivers. There is not anyone
Well,
amongst the other 31 who's going to pick up his contract.
yeah.
So McDavid is screwed. You got 8 million tied up into those two.
Yeah. Well, and they don't have a lot of draft capital
No,
either.
they have nothing.
Yeah. So
So what are they going to do? Darnell Nurse is not the trade bait that his salary would suggest. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to give up Hyman for a top goalie? Like what are you going to do? You're going to give up Evan Bouchard for a goalie?
no. Well, no, I mean, their problem is in addition to having $8 million in dead goalies, they've got like 9.25 in Nurse.
Yeah.
And Bouchard's contract, I think, kicks in
He's
this
10,
big
isn't
one
he?
kicks in this year. I think it's this year it kicks in.
He's overpriced.
They've
Holy
got, I
cow.
mean, they've got a couple young guys coming up, but I mean, they don't really have draft capital. They don't really have guys because they don't really want to trade Savoy. Podkolzin might get you more. Podkolzin's not getting you a first. He's not getting you a high-end defenseman.
He
He's a
showed
mid,
well in the first round.
he's a, yeah, we gave him away to Evan for a 4th round pick. Like that's a
Yeah.
bonehead mistake.
Why did you guys do that?
We gave up on him, well, because they were looking at the other young guys that were coming up and going, do we have space for him? He's not going to be able. If they wanted to send him down, I think he was at the point where he was not waiver eligible anymore, so they were going to have to probably. He would have gotten scooped up for free, so they got something for him. It's done. So they ended up doing was they effectively, with the exchange of fourth round picks, traded Podkolzin for 1 year of Evander Kane, and they didn't get anything for Kane at the deadline because he's Evander Kane, right?
Yeah.
So but Podkolzin has looked good playing with.
So McJesus is stuck because next year, which starts in 5 months, next year is not going to be a better year than this year. Next year is going to be pretty much the same year as this year.
Well, they're going to be a year older. So, like Hyman's a year older.
That's right. But it's going to be
a year older.
It's going to be the same year, which is that it's going to be incredibly frustrating for McJesus up until about Christmas, and he's going to scream his ass off. And then he and Leon are going to play 25, 26 minutes a night on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, and then they're going to will their team into the playoffs.
But the problem this year. I mean, I know people are calling for Knobloch, not people, but I mean Edmonton Twitter is like calling for like Knobloch to be fired. And it's like, well, this guy took you to the
McJesus complimented John Cooper
and you and I talked about
unprompted,
this.
and he went on and on about this.
You and I talked about this, and I thought that that is another reason why I have a problem cheering for Connor McDavid, because I don't again, he never seems happy. He seems like me. Yeah, I mean, and again, everybody chalks it up to being like, oh, he's just competitive. He puts so much weight on his shoulders. He wants to win so much. And they said the same thing about McKinnon until McKinnon won the cup. And it's like, but sometimes guys are just pricks. Like to me, there's got to be one, you have to have some respect for your coach. And this is a guy who was brought in. He wasn't happy with Woodcroft. So they bring in Knobloch, who was his coach in Erie. And the idea was that Knobloch was basically a DEI hire because he was McDavid's coach. And he's turned out to be actually a pretty good NHL coach. I mean, twice gets into the Stanley Cup final within one game of winning a Stanley Cup title. And this year they were just probably spent. And McJesus was had a fractured ankle. Like, they weren't going to win the cup this year.
Who's the Boston Vegas coach who just got fired?
Bruce Cassidy. Yeah, that's what I keep hearing, is that might be. Like, if we bring
I want him. But he has the gravitas to deal with McDavid.
Yeah,
they could have brought a Quenneville, but
yeah, and Cassidy's got a personality. So I don't know how he and Draisaitl would get along, although they both have a bit of sarcasm to them, so maybe they'd be a good fit.
Right.
I don't know if Connor McDavid seems humorless to me, so I don't know how he would take to a guy like Bruce Cassidy. Like,
he certainly respects John Cooper.
Yeah, but John Cooper is it's a Stanley Cup winner. He's played for John Cooper.
Yeah.
Right. He's never played for Bruce Cassidy.
Right.
And John Cooper's funny. I don't think John Cooper is sarcastic. I don't know if McDavid gets humor. Maybe if it's hockey humor, like, he's not even smiling in those CIBC commercials. So, and they're giving him money to be an architect, and he's not smiling. Connor Bedard is at least smiling.
You really hate those restaurant CIBC commercials. I thought they were fairly benign.
Well, because it's a lie. Because I know that CIBC does not fund businesses unless you've got some big track record. This idea, if Connor McDavid and Connor Bedard want to be architects, we gladly help them. Like, if you're Joe Architect and John Architect and you want to be architects, CIBC is not opening their doors.
Right. Well, just keep on beating the drum. That word needs to get out. But okay, so McJesus. Okay, so let me just redirect you here. In 5 months, the season starts. By Christmas of this year, it's going to be a replay of the past 3 years, which is they're slightly out of a playoff place. And Leon and McJesus are going nuts. And what I just said is exactly what's going to happen. January to March, they're both going to play 25 plus minutes. And they're going to will themselves barely into a playoff spot. And they're not going to have anything in the playoffs because they're going to have Ingram. Like, what's the replacement for Ingram? So let's assume that he becomes 1B. Who is the 1A and how do they afford it? So what I see is this. Hyman's gone because he is a really good inducement for a team that maybe has 2 good goalies. Who else can they get rid of?
Potentially, yeah.
Like who? Who would you give a 1A/1B away for? You would be very interested in Hyman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could look. I mean, one team that has goalie prospects who are ready for the NHL is Detroit. I mean,
Yes,
Detroit spent a bunch of money on or they got John Gibson tied up.
right.
Cam Talbot was serviceable for them, but they've got
Talbot was in
Sebastian.
Edmonton.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that I'm saying who Detroit has. I'm saying in their minor league system right now in Grand Rapids, they've got Sebastian Cossa, who was a former Edmonton Oil King player,
Yeah,
and
not
Trey
good enough.
Augustine. They've
Not
got
good enough. They got to
well,
win now. You can't go get an AHL
who?
goalie.
Okay, but I'm trying to. So you're okay. You're mapping out. Here's all their problems. They're hamstrung. What can they possibly do?
How
I'm
do you
trying to
win
be.
with McDavid next year?
I'm trying to be creative. Just stop for a second. I'm trying to be creative and say, like, do you go with Ingram and a young guy? Look at what Montreal's doing with Jakubec, right? Where did he come from?
Ingram has hit a ceiling.
Uh,
Ingram was a sieve. I mean, some of those goals that Anaheim was potting,
okay.
they were
Look
Jordan
at
Binnington like.
look
I mean,
at
it was like
look.
in between the elbow and the waist.
Okay,
You got to
look.
set your feet. You got to be direct to the shooter.
Okay, you've just explained how Edmonton cannot go out. And first of all, I don't know if there is a number one goalie on the trade market this year. So you have to be creative and go, who is out there that could be the next Jakub Dobish, who's playing for Montreal?
Yeah.
Montreal's got Jacob Fowler coming up too, who is probably going to be Dobis and Fowler in the next year for Montreal. So he's probably not available. But I'm saying in Detroit, they've got two pieces. They got Sebastian Cossa, who Edmonton should know because he played junior hockey in Edmonton, and Trey Augustine, who was a gold medal winning goalie for the American juniors. They're both playing very well. They're probably both ready for the NHL now. There just isn't an opportunity in Detroit. Detroit's not going to run with both of those guys. They'll run with one of those guys and Gibson. So can you get the other guy out of Detroit, who are also in the same boat as you, having not made the playoffs, having watched Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal all surpass them and get into the playoffs? Detroit, Steve Eisner will be desperate to make the playoffs next year. Is that who you go get? One of those young guys who
How
might not
about
cost you much? Or do you roll the dice,
how
give a
about
draft
Hellebuck?
pick?
Hellebuck or
What?
Shesterkin?
What?
New York sucks, and they are on a rebuild. They suck. So
I'm
they
gonna
do suck.
I'm preparing now to hear a
Hellebuck,
typical Toronto Maple Leaf fan kind of trade offer. What does Edmonton have to
agreed,
trade to Winnipeg
agreed,
for Hellebuck?
agreed. Hellebuck gave an unusual. Now he's a fiery guy. Understood. He's also probably a guy that you have to take the emotions with a grain of salt. Understood. He also signed long term. Understood. However, okay, these guys are so media savvy, especially Hellebuck. So he's unhappy there. I think that would not be a stretch. And so if he needs out, who could Edmonton possibly give to induce that?
That's my question. You're the one saying, what about Hellebuck?
I know, but that
But they don't
solves
have. Oh yeah,
but that solves
yeah.
Jesus' problem.
So if Toronto could trade for Quinn Hughes, Connor McDavid,
So
and Rob Thomas,
okay.
they would be good. Like
So Hellebuck.
no, yeah.
So Hellebuck for Hyman
Oh,
and who else? Someone who's top line.
so
I don't know
we're
who else.
we're going to trade our recent Hart and Vezina winning goalie
Who's unhappy?
for a 33-year-old winger who would be not thrilled to get moved to Winnipeg. And what else? What do you have? I don't know. I'd have to look up what Edmonton's picks are. You come up with another like
And two first rounders.
You come up with another ridiculous trade offer, and I'm going to look up what Edmonton's pick situation is.
Shesterkin,
Oh, geez.
top goalie for the New York Rangers, and the New York Rangers suck. And they know they suck. So Shesterkin for, again, Edmonton is so bare. I mean, they have nothing going on. So who can they give up for
Okay,
Shesterkin?
so here's your Oilers draft pick situation. So you're going to supplement the immortal Zach Hyman with draft picks. So
He's an author and the
Edmonton's-
owner of the Bradford Bulls.
Edmonton
Bulldogs.
draft picks in 2026, a second and a third rounder. Edmonton's draft picks in 2027, a second rounder. And I'm not going past the third round. 28, they've got their first, no second, and two thirds. 2029, a first, no seconds, and a third. So the next 4 years, they've got 2 seconds and 2 firsts.
Okay, so you need to give Hyman up, the 2028 first rounder, and I don't know that you're allowed to. Can you give the 2029 first rounder?
Well, I think
Anyways,
you can, but they're
yeah. That's a long ways away.
They're in a hurt. Yeah. No, Edmonton's got a young goalie. I'm just looking up his name here.
Who else could Edmonton give
Connor Unger is the guy that they've got
in the AHL?
In the AHL,
who they chose not
there
to
were some
play.
rumors they didn't bring him up this year. So is he going to make the team next year? Could he possibly be the backup and they kind of roll the dice and see if they run with him? He was on a great run down in Bakersfield for them. So maybe he's a guy that can. I mean, I haven't heard of him. Like I've not heard of him discussed in the Sebastian Cossa, Trey Augustine, Jacob Fowler kind of goalies of the future.
I don't disagree with you, but the argument we're having is exactly the dilemma that Edmonton has, which is my crazy ideas are as valid as anything else because an AHL star goalie is really not going to solve their problem.
Well, but your idea that somehow Hellebuck or Shesterkin
either
are acquirable
New York
the
sucks.
Oilers.
New York sucks.
It doesn't matter if New York sucks. New York is like, unless like the Oilers brass have got some pictures of Chris Drury, there is no way that Drury is giving away Shesterkin.
No, not giving away, trading.
And
Hellebuck is unhappy.
Anything the Oilers could give to either Winnipeg for Hellebuck or the Rangers for Shesterkin would constitute giving those guys away. Because they do not have enough. Neither Winnipeg nor New York are going to say, hey, we'll take your 28 and your 29 first round picks.
You're right. Edmonton has nothing to give.
And if Edmonton makes that move and they've got no first round picks for 4 years.
They screwed themselves by taking on Jarry. What a stupid trade.
No. You know, they screwed themselves. Their original sin, if we're going to go to sort of biblical references, their original sin was developing Broberg, developing Holloway, bringing them up, and then cheaping out and not signing those guys to their contracts, to reasonable contracts. Like you look at what, after a year in St. Louis, the Blues are giving Broberg 8 times 8. They signed him to a 4.65. The Oilers don't match that. Now he's an 8.8 guy. Dylan Holloway just signed, I think it's like a 7.65 times 7 kind of deal.
He signed the day after they got eliminated, right?
Do you know what the offer sheet was for Holloway? Do you remember what it was? 2.85.
One was 4, one was 2.
Broberg was 4.65.
Okay.
And Holloway was 2.85. And I
Looks
remember
like a bloody deal now.
I remember looking at Oilers Twitter then, and they're all like, oh, let Broberg walk, he's not worth it. But they're all like, oh, you gotta sign. Like even idiot Oilers fans were saying 2.85 for Holloway was a steal. And they let him walk. What they get? They got a draft pick for him. I think that 3rd round pick in 2027 that they got from St. Louis, that's one of the picks for Holloway.
Okay. They did that.
That's the original sin there.
Right. They got handcuffed on Jack Campbell, but Jack Campbell was playing well, and who knows? And then, but recently, I mean, okay, so McJesus signs below market, obviously. And then 4 months later, 3 months later, in season, they panic and they get Jarry for long term when there's no reason. Like this is a Chikra type of move, right? Like for no reason possible. There's just no logic to it. 1 + 1 does not equal 2. Like there's nothing there. And they choose Jarry.
Jacob Chikrin is the defenseman who was in Ottawa. Now he's in Winnipeg.
Okay.
John Chayka is the guy who is running your team.
Yes, I know. I'm just talking about the idiot boy from Arizona who's now running the Premier League, Premier team.
That's longer than saying Chayka.
Yeah. So anyways, but okay. And so now they've stuck themselves. And so what can they do? Obviously, they can try to buy Jarry out and then free up barely anything, I think.
Yeah.
And so even then, okay, so now they've got an extra 2-3 million per year free because they've got rid of Jarry. It still doesn't solve their problem. Like, so what? Now, again, Shesterkin or Hellebuck, like, for God's sakes, are they going to go and get Binnington? Oh, my God. Binnington played himself into the AHL this year. So, anyways, they're stuck. They're losing McJesus.
Well, I don't know if you've seen I've seen these trade discussions on both McDavid and for your guy, Austin Matthews, out of San Jose, where they're talking, like the suggestion for McDavid was 2nd overall and Askarov and probably something else for McDavid to go to San Jose. And I've seen similar discussions amongst Leaf fans of that kind of offer for Matthews. I've seen, well, the one for Matthews was Dickinson, the defenseman, Mesa, the center, second pick overall last year, and second overall this year. So Toronto would have the first and second overall this year, Mesa and Dickinson, for what, one more year of Matthews before he decides where he wants to sign? Because Matthews got what, one more year or two? One more.
He's got 2, but he's also got a no move. So yeah, I'm sure he'd play with Celebrini.
Yeah, well, that's the
Yeah.
thing. But Celebrini, man, again, like Celebrini and McDavid looked pretty good together in the Olympics, right? So
Yeah, McJesus.
it would be
Oh, that'd be unfair. Yeah.
no, if they did that, then they're still, if they did that second overall and Askarov for McDavid plus something else, they would then they don't really have a goalie. So then San Jose's out there looking for a goalie, and they're still looking for a defenseman.
But okay, if Edmonton trades McJesus, then nothing matters. Like, you don't need a goalie anymore. You don't need anything anymore because you're not contending. Don't pretend that your team is good enough to contend. So if you trade away McJesus, everything is lost. Everybody loses their job, and goaltending, none of it matters. So you can get more Jarrys if you want. Your season ticket base is going to plummet to 3 people.
Well, no, there's nothing else to do with Edmonton.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess. But yeah, I mean, so once they lose McJesus, they're done. They're done for a good long while. But the point is that the issue is, how in the world can they possibly rectify the huge hole that they put themselves into? They can't. And McDavid is very upset. And
I would
Leon
suggest a
Draisaitl
slightly used Thatcher Demko.
plus Elias Pettersson, 2 for 1.
No, I honestly, we talked about this during the course of the year. I mean, LA Kings is a landing spot, but I really think that the Detroit Red Wings, having not made the playoffs this year, are going to be looking to make some sort of move.
Right.
And I think Pettersson as a number 2C behind Larkin, playing with Lucas Raymond, playing in a system where he's not expected to be the sniper on the power play.
He's lost his mojo, though. The kid is floating.
Well, I think a change of scenery could help him. So, I mean, I honestly think that Detroit or LA is where he's going to end up. One of those two. And I don't know what the Canucks are going to necessarily get back for him, but I'd be happy if they rolled the dice with, like, from Detroit, if they got like a Nate Danielson or a Marco Kasper to try and fill in a 2C. The Canucks got Braden Coots coming up. He's had a fantastic playoff with the WHL with Prince Albert this year. Like, I think that, I mean, with Rossi, Coots, and another piece down the middle, it might be the same thing we were talking about, where it's like, hey, you might have a bunch of number 2Cs, you have number 1C, but you got a couple more years of stinking it up at the bottom of the league, and maybe
That's right.
Maybe you win a draft lottery in a year where there's a center that's worth drafting.
Or Langdon Dupont next year.
If they get Landon Dupont, that's what I would be hoping for. But
I think we've solved a lot of problems here, Jay. Hopefully, John Chicka and
I think is the Strait of Hormuz open?
Yeah, I don't
bring it full circle. Let's have a Strait of Hormuz conversation before we sign off.
I agree. Okay, thanks, buddy.
Okay,
I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you for watching the Dads Who Talk podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe, and you can catch us on Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify. We look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.